trafficking in fentanyl, carfentanil, heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine, as well as attempting to import cocaine. The street value of the seized drugs is estimated at $10 million.
Two Sunwing employees swept up in a multi-million-dollar drug bust. They're accused of smuggling cocaine through Pearson Airport. The Sunwing workers are among 11 people now facing charges. It's all the result of an undercover operation led by the RCMP. Lorenda Redekop has details now on the investigation and what Sunwing is saying.
The RCMP say this is the result of 4 days of raids, $400,000 in cash, drugs including fentanyl, heroin, and methamphetamines. Police also seized 3 vehicles. They say they also uncovered a drug trafficking ring working out of Pearson International Airport. 2 Sunwing Airlines employees are charged.
They were long-term Sunwing employees, and that's all I can really say.
Their names, 40-year-old Andrzej Krawczyk of Kitchener and 46-year-old Gianni Balestrin of Mississauga. They're accused of attempting to import cocaine, cocaine trafficking, and conspiracy to import cocaine. According to a source with knowledge of the investigation, both worked in airplane maintenance. Police say the cocaine was coming from sunny getaway spots: Jamaica, Aruba, Costa Rica, and the Dominican Republic, all Sunwing destinations.
The cocaine is primarily produced in South America, but the transshipment points when they're trafficking it globally will often stop in the Caribbean countries, and that's where our investigation took us.
The RCMP thanked Sunwing Airlines for its help with this investigation. In a statement, the company says the 2 employees have been suspended without pay, pending the completion of the legal proceedings. The company also says their security clearance was immediately revoked, along with access to company offices. Police say a separate part of the raid targeted traffickers of other drugs. Officers worked undercover, infiltrating groups that supply drugs to the GTA and southwestern Ontario. The biggest seizure was of fentanyl, 10 kilograms worth.
This is millions of doses. This is a significant impact to southwestern Ontario, the fentanyl trafficking.
The 11 people charged in this case range in age from 20 to 46. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
You know the saying, there are 2 seasons in Toronto, winter and construction. And now that the second season is in full swing, drivers are feeling the pain of construction on our roads. Couple that with summer events causing even more restrictions. Angelina King joins us live from Adelaide and King tonight. And Angelina, what do drivers have to know about exactly where you're standing right now?
Well, another day, another weekend, another road closure. So the sign behind me kind of gives it away a little bit, but this stretch of Adelaide between Bay and Yonge Streets will be closed all weekend starting in less than half an hour. So a Netflix series can be filmed here. And the last few weeks we've been talking to you about a lot of different closures, including restrictions on the DVP, the closure of the Yonge Bay York off-ramp of the Gardner, restrictions on Richmond Street, now this on Adelaide, plus there's a lot more. So all of these closures got us thinking, how are things on the road since the mayor campaigned on improving traffic in Toronto?
I was elected on a mandate to get this city moving. And while that won't happen overnight, we are going to begin the process today of taking very definite steps to do just that.
That was Mayor John Tory speaking in 2014, telling drivers their commute will get easier. So has it? Do you think traffic's been better or worse in the last 5 years?
It's definitely been worse, much worse. There's construction everywhere.
Worse than worse. Yeah, we are losing business, to be honest. We can't make money because we can't drive.
And it's insane. It's brutal.
So what do you think about the mayor's kind of promises on battling congestion? Where do you think we're at with some of those?
Well, I mean, I think the zero tolerance of parking on main arterial roads during rush hour, I think that's working. I think the towing is a good deterrence. There's heavy fines. At the same time, we're just treading water. As we continue to grow, it's harder and harder to keep the traffic flowing. And as I mentioned, the transit system, 30 years behind.
In May, the mayor said this is the busiest construction season ever in Toronto. The city says there are more than 100 permits currently allowing lane closures for construction. In a year, it issues around 500 road closure permits for special events. This weekend alone, events are closing Ossington between Queen and Dundas, Queen Street East between Woodbine and Beach, Dundas Square from Yonge Street to O'Keefe Lane, a curb lane on Victoria between Dundas Square and Shooter, plus a small portion of Adelaide. It will be fully closed between Yonge and Based until 6 a.m. Monday to accommodate filming the Netflix series Jupiter's Legacy. That's on top of the more than 180 major road restrictions in the city, plus there are more than 180 moderate restrictions and more than 350 minor ones.
If there are ways that we can limit those closures, we definitely do that. We look at that. Like I said, we have a dedicated group that looks at these road closure applications. Sometimes it's not possible, but we do make sure that there's alternate routes for people to take.
So a lot of people I talked to today said, but this is what makes Toronto vibrant. There's lots going on. There's things to do in the summer. And yes, there's construction, but try to embrace it because that means that the city is growing and making some improvements. So I asked people, what do they think the answer is to calming congestion? And it kind of lies in a few different factors. Some people saying it's all about the city finding that magic formula to try and coordinate all the services and events at the same time. Others saying it's all about improving transit, getting people out of their vehicles. Some say that it's to ensure people are following the rules on the road, and that includes construction companies to make sure that they aren't blocking lanes when no work is being done. Now, while we're dealing with all of this, it's best to just know what type of closures are coming so you can plan ahead and, of course, leave early, right?
Angelina on Adelaide for us tonight with some good information. Thank you, Angelina. A man was stabbed just as the first night of the Beaches Jazz Festival was wrapping up yesterday. Our camera was there as the victim arrived at hospital. The 27-year-old man was stabbed in the abdomen shortly after 11 p.m. near Queen and Woodbine. He managed to alert some nearby firefighters who provided first aid. He's now in stable condition. So far, no arrests. And police are investigating a bizarre incident on the 403 in Peel. A car rolled over in the westbound lanes at about 2:30 this morning. An Uber driver and his female passenger stopped to help. But the driver of the overturned car tried to carjack the Good Samaritans and steal the Uber. Police say when they arrived, the man was in a chaotic state. An officer used a conducted energy device on him and he was taken to hospital. The Uber driver and passenger were treated for minor injuries. You're looking at new video of Canada's most wanted men, Cam McLeod and Briar Schmagelski, in the camo gear inside a store in Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan last weekend. The RCMP releasing this video in just the last hour. Cold rain is falling on the bug-infested bush and boggy region around Gillam in northern Manitoba, where the two fugitive teens were last seen earlier this week. The youths are wanted in connection with the deaths of 3 people in BC last week. Today, RCMP gave an update on the search and dangled the possibility they may have left that region.
Over the next 72 hours, investigators will conduct door-to-door canvasses in the town of Gillam. Cam McLeod and Briar Schmagelski may have changed their appearance. It is possible that someone may not have been aware of who they were providing assistance to and may now be hesitant to come forward.
Meanwhile, the search in the immediate area in Gillam continued today. Angela Johnston has that story.
We're just near a police check stop near Gillam. You can just see it behind me. And these officers are still in place, still checking vehicles as they come through. And there is still very much a very large-scale search underway for the 2 suspects, Cam McLeod and Briar Schmagelski. We've seen this search play out on a few different fronts. There have been drones in the air, canines on the ground. We know that there's a helicopter that is now involved. And this morning, actually, we saw there was a Via Rail train that was rolling into town, and officers really stopped to sift through the cars carefully. They were actually going inside, taking a look, presumably looking for anything that would be out of place or suspicious. But another thing going on here today, as you can probably tell, is the weather. It's cold, it's dreary, it's been raining, and it's just not very pleasant. So in these kind of conditions, you have to wonder how might this be impacting the two suspects if they are still in this area, which RCMP have said that they believe that they are. You know, people have told us, of course, that there are abandoned buildings or trails or maybe some shelter, but the elements are certainly a factor. And people are still feeling on edge with this hunt and this search dragging on for days. They've openly asked us or speculated, you know, what if we're being watched right now? So there is definitely still a lot of anxiety, still some nerves, and very much people just want this to be over. They are hoping that this is resolved soon and all of this attention comes off of this remote area. Angela Johnston, CBC News, near Gillam.
Toronto police have launched a sudden death investigation into an incident and fire at a former Ontario Health Minister David Kaplan's home. Now, police were called around 9:30 Wednesday night to a home in the DVP and Lawrence Avenue area. Paramedics say they rushed a man to nearby hospital in life-threatening condition. Duty officer Sean Staff said the man sustained severe injuries. Police confirmed to us there was a fire at the residence. David Kaplan died Wednesday night, and the cause of his death is unknown. He was first elected in 1997 and served as the Liberal Health Minister from 2007 to 2009. He served as an MPP for the riding of Don Valley East until 2011. He also ran unsuccessfully in last year's municipal election. He's being remembered as a hard-working politician who was dedicated to his community. He was just 54 years old. Despite some initial objections from local residents, an Indigenous Healing Lodge has been approved for Scarborough. This is where the new Thunder Woman Healing Lodge will be built near Cliffside and Kingston Road. Scarborough's Committee of Adjustment voted unanimously in favor of the lodge at its meeting yesterday afternoon. Dozens of people showed up to the meeting both for and against this project. Local residents raised concerns about crime, traffic, and lack of public consultation. The Healing Lodge is expected to look something like this and will offer temporary accommodation and counseling for about a dozen women who are either before the justice system or reintegrating into society after their incarceration has ended. It will also have permanent apartments for another 12 women who have completed reintegration counseling. Members of the public have 20 days to appeal the decision. The project has been in the planning process for about 2 years and will cost about $12 million.
There's not much enough space for everyone to be sitting around here. Like, I feel like the water is very high up and it's much closer this year.
She's right. Still ahead, we head to Wasaga Beach where rising water levels just limiting spots to tan, but also hitting the town's bottom line. That story coming up. And you know, Colette, welcome back. I know you're a little under the weather. It's good to see you.
Thanks,
from
you too.
The part of the province where you're from, I was out at Sandbanks, and I noticed that too, that the water is coming right up to the shore, almost to the tree line.
Yeah, almost to the tree line, you're right. And in parts of eastern Ontario, I've been down there too, seeing like some roads actually covered. There's a road closed in the Kingston area that's like one that people use really to get around. So it's definitely having an impact this summer, and we're seeing it. And of course, we've been experiencing it at times here in the GTA as well. Something else we're experiencing that doesn't help with the situation is when we get some of these thunderstorms with very heavy downpours. Now, they're very highly localized. However, it still matters if you're in one of these. And we do have a severe thunderstorm warning because we're looking at the potential of 40, 50, maybe even up to 70 millimeters of rainfall with some of these cells that are coming through. So this is in the Vaughan area towards Markham, Richmond Hill, where we've been seeing some of this activity. I can take you in for a closer look on the radar. I take the lightning strikes off. They are there, but you can see kind of just coming up to 400, some of those heavier downpours. You're driving through that, boy, that'll slow you down. And it's a good thing that it does because you need to use some caution here. Not only here, up into cottage country, getting into some of these. Again, look how localized these are, but some pretty heavy downpours in there too. We're going to see this winding down over the next couple of hours. The temperatures, okay, upper 20s for today, feeling like we're in the 30s. The heat is going to be building, though, as we go into the weekend. That's why we have a heat warning in place from Environment Canada for the weekend into Monday. I'll show you that coming up a little later in the show. Right now, showing you your forecast for tonight. 20 degrees as we get into the clearing trend. A repeat performance tomorrow afternoon, early evening with that risk of some isolated storms. 31 for the high, but feeling warmer than that, Dwight. We'll talk about that heat coming up.
We'll check back with you. Thanks, Colette.
Sounds good.
For the next 2 weeks, anyone who follows cricket will have their eyes on what's happening right here in Brampton. Some of the game's biggest stars are in town for the Global T20 Canada. Greg Ross joins us live now from the pitch out in Brampton. Set the scene for us out there, Greg.
Well, Dwight, I'm about as close as you can get to the field of play here without actually being on it. I'm watching a match here. You can see the team in orange there is the Montreal Tigers. They're at bat facing the Winnipeg Hawks, who are wearing yellow right now. And I can tell you, Montreal looking pretty good so far in this one. We just watched a player knock it out of the park here. He hit a 6. I'm learning the game a little bit here, Dwight. I'm learning about the game. He knocked a 6 out of the park. It was a pretty cool atmosphere, pretty great to watch. If you look over here, got a few thousand fans in the stands taking in this match, and I've got to tell you, I got my own personal tour of this brand new temporary stadium that they built just behind Brampton CAA Center. Tournament director Jason Harper took me onto the field to tell me how they were able to put this together.
You look around, and this looks like a real cricket pitch.
Yeah, it is, right? We did a lot of work here, Greg, in the last month and a half or so. The principals, the team here at Bombay Sports and Global T20 really put some long hours in. We've hired one of the best pitch consultants and outfield consultants from New Zealand, and those guys came in and did some work for us. Yesterday on our opening day on a Thursday, we had over 4,000 people here. We have max capacity of 5,000.
Why is Brampton a good location for a tournament like this?
I think the demographics speak to the game. So people in Brampton tend to be immigrants who've migrated to Canada in the last 15 to 20 years. Some of the kids were born and raised here, but they're interacted with the game of cricket outside of Canada. So there's a natural market.
Let's walk over here.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
This
Please
is...
don't go on my pitch, Greg.
I can't... You don't want me to walk on the pitch there?
No. That's a special piece of grass right there. These were flown in. These are actually trays that we flew in from drove in from Indianapolis, and we cut a hole in the ground and put them in.
This is the wicket right here.
Right, the stumps, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even know how to put that together.
No, it's very simple. You see these holes in the ground right here, behind the white line, on the back of the white line. These 3 holes. So 3 of these go into the 3 holes. These shorter versions here go just to hold them in place. So they're in place. Batsman protects his wicket. If a ball hits the wicket while he's batting, he's out. So it's very similar to baseball.
How do you go about teaching people who don't know the game? How do you go after that market?
That's a really good question, because I think for us, one of the things is we have to bring cricket to the mainstream, and by doing that, we have to get into people's households and give master classes, lessons, talk about the history of the game, the impact on the game culturally outside of North America. Outside of North America, cricket is the number 2 largest sport in the world.
I'm getting one of those master classes today. Again, I can tell you, Montreal looking really good. They have 35 runs, Dwight, still in the first inning. This match is literally just underway. They started moments ago, and the crowd is into it. So far, so good.
And you're right, a 6 is like a home run. Thank you for that, Greg.
This whole area is becoming really popular for filming. It's always nice when people are happy to see you.
It's the small Ontario town with a big claim to fame. After the break, we take you to Goodwood, the home of Schitt's Creek. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Sunshine and hot temperatures mean Wasaga Beach will be a popular place to be this weekend. But high water levels this summer are resulting in less beachfront, and as Philip Lishanek reports, businesses in the resort town are worried that could erode their bottom line.
For these beachgoers, it's tight quarters, as many had to plan ahead to claim a patch of sand.
We got here early. We got a little space. We're fine. Like, it's nice, but yeah, for sure we noticed there's a lot more water than usual.
Usually, there's much more space to stretch out. This year, there's much less sandy real estate to go around, and many were surprised that the beach strip is so narrow.
There's not enough space for everyone to be sitting around here. Like, I feel like the water is very high up and it's much closer this year.
From above, it's pretty dramatic. Long stretches of the popular sandy beach have narrowed as high water levels have cut the busiest areas roughly in half. In other areas, it's just a tiny strip or completely submerged. Local businesses are hoping tourists will still come for the surf and sand.
You have to really like your neighbor because, as you can see, when you're down here enjoying the beach, you're close to your neighbor, which isn't a bad thing.
Still, so far on most days, the parking lots near the main beach are full. Still, businesses that rent out accommodations are worried.
It's the overnighters that aren't necessarily staying in the accommodation in Wasaga Beach.
There are parts of this beach that are completely washed away. People who've been coming here for decades say they haven't seen the water this high for quite some time.
Way back about 15 years ago.
Spiro Mavro and his family have been coming here for 30 years. He says in the late 80s, the water was even higher.
The water was coming up and it was actually hitting our building. It was right up. You couldn't even walk the beach.
He says after that year, many considered building retaining walls to protect their properties, but then water levels dropped dramatically in the years that followed. Still, the town and parks officials are keeping an eye on how much shoreline is lost due to wave damage and erosion. Philip Lishanek, CBC News, Wasaga Beach.
Schitt's Creek.
Schitt's Creek.
Schitt's Creek.
Schitt's Creek scored its first ever set of Emmy nominations last week. It's up for Outstanding Comedy Series, and Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara also got nods for their leading roles. Those nominations are extra special for many people in Goodwood near Uxbridge. Their town is the real Schitt's Creek, and as Daniel Clark found out, the show has changed their town.
Welcome to Goodwood, Ontario, population 663. It's my first time here, so I figured I'd take you on a little tour of a town that you know as Schitt's Creek. Nods from the Television Academy for Outstanding Comedy Series, lead actors.
I wish we had gotten to the second tape in the Workplace Etiquette series.
And at long last, the brilliance of Maura's outfits. The hit sitcom has left some of its magic in what was once a drive-through town, making it a destination in its own right.
So we have people that want to see, they want to see Schitt's Creek. So they want to go and see where the locations were. They want to go to the Schitt's Creek Town Hall.
This is the main intersection in town, and that is Bob's Garage, which is really just a workshop where they make custom wheelchairs. That is the famous Cafe Tropical, which is really just somebody's house. Die-hard fans make the day trip to see the sights and embrace a connection they feel with the series.
First of all, it's Canadian. The thing that I really loved about it is the acceptance of parents being open and accepting their children for who they are and who you love.
Attracting more than just tourists, Schitt's Creek locations manager Callie Taylor has returned. She's working on another production that has set up shop in Goodwood. So it's my understanding that you worked on Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, I'm in the locations department.
And right now we are standing outside of
what was Bob's Garage. This whole area is becoming really popular for filming. It's always nice when people are happy to see you, because sometimes we're filming in areas that people aren't too happy and you don't see a lot of fans coming around.
Do you recognize this? Well, this is Rose Apothecary, but really it's the town's arts and crafts store. So let's go in and have a look at what the real inside looks like. Some are breathing a sigh of relief, like Romney Wool's owner Marilyn Leonard.
It means I won't have to look for things anymore and find them 6 months after they've left.
Each year, her shop would close for the show and would transform into the famous Rose Apothecary.
Well, it's a general store, but it's also a very specific store.
Still, the label on the town is indelible.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you Google Schitt's Creek, it says Goodwood, and if you Google Goodwood, it says Schitt's Creek.
So this is the new Schitt's Creek.
Yep.
Daniel Clark, CBC News, Goodwood.
So you miss the delivery of an expensive package and it ends up in a pickup location like this. You'd think it's safe there, right? Coming up, how a complete stranger ended up with this man's OVO tickets.
Imagine buying expensive tickets to OVO Fest only to have them end up in the hands of someone else. That's what happened to an Etobicoke man. Taylor Simmons explains how it happened.
Launching a new company this month, Xavier Ramphel thought he'd found a great way to generate some buzz.
We knew the hottest ticket in town was the OVO tickets, so we thought of why don't we get some tickets to give away?
The 4 tickets cost about $1,000, so when they went missing, panic set in.
We're in pretty big trouble because we have to either find another way to get the tickets out there because we've already started advertising. So, the commitment was already made.
Rumfeld wasn't home when the tickets did arrive, but Canada Post left a pickup slip. But instead of ending up in his mailbox in 122, it ended up in 1227. That's where Parmjeet Kaur lives.
My son was very excited to pick it up because he believes it was something that he was expecting. So we went on Friday and went to the post office and had given the slip and has got our package.
They went to this Shoppers, and even though the name and address were wrong, the package with the tickets was handed over. Shoppers Drug Mart employees run the Canada Post stations in their stores. In a statement, their owner, Loblaw Companies, said, "We have been in touch with store management and can confirm that there is a policy in place that requires customers picking up parcels to present ID as well as proof of address that matches that on the package." Unfortunately, in this case, this process was not fulfilled, and we are working with the store immediately to make sure this is corrected moving forward. After realizing the mistake, Kaur took it upon herself to personally return the tickets.
I just wanted to be honest and believe that this did not belong to me. It needs to go to the right person.
She could have kept the tickets, she could have sold the tickets. It's, what they're going for now is astronomical. So it was really dawned on me the kindness and the journey that the tickets were on, and I really appreciated that. So I wanted to give you this gift.
Ramphal gave Kaur and her son some company swag as a thank you. Meantime, Canada Post says although the pickup slip system usually works well, customers can also direct ship to post offices with notices coming through email. Taylor Simmons, CBC News, Toronto.
A Toronto realtor is suing 2 titans of the fashion world, alleging a makeup mishap in New York City caused the, quote, complete loss of her enjoyment of life. Tracy Dunn is suing both Saks and Gucci for more than $2 million. The suit says back in 2016, Dunn and family were in New York on a trip when they entered Saks Fifth Avenue. That's when court documents say a Gucci attendant, quote, proceeded suddenly and forcefully and vigorously with a back and forth movement with the application of the eyeliner to the inside and outside of her eyelids. Dunn says that's when her eyes began hurting. She allegedly told the attendant to stop, but he didn't. Court docs go on to say that Dunn is suing for, quote, suffered pain and an immediate eye injury, permanent loss of her eyelashes, and a physical disfigurement, mental and emotional pain and suffering, and measurable loss of income. The intense heat across Europe is causing traffic delays and congestion in many cities, and public work crews are taking exceptional measures to protect roads and rails. In the Netherlands, they're spraying roads with salt water, which cools asphalt and helps stop it from melting.
Salt attracts actually water from the air, so the cooling effect lasts longer. And if we don't do this, we're afraid that the upper layer of the roads will melt, and we have to renew the roads, which of course we don't want to do.
Water pumps were put into action after the temperature hit 40 degrees. It's been 75 years since that country was this hot. In the UK, the heat derailed the country's rail system. Trains were held up for hours amid fears the record-setting heat would buckle the tracks. The problems are expected into the weekend before rain and cooler weather moves in. And we thought it was hot here, Colette.
I know. And here we go, Dwight, into at least another weekend, not as bad as last weekend, but where we are going to see our temperatures and the humidity both rising. And because of that, we've got a heat warning in place for us here, not just in the GTA, even if you're traveling, say you're going towards the Ottawa Valley, heat warning there as well. Southwestern Ontario, Windsor area, into a heat warning. So just enjoy tonight, because overnight tonight, clear skies. We'll get away from some of these thunderstorms, although I'm going to focus in on those in just a moment here. But tomorrow afternoon, early evening, we get into that risk of some isolated cells popping up once again, and we keep hazy, hot, humid all the way through to Monday. Then it starts to break and change as we go towards Tuesday. We'll show you that in the 5-day forecast. But there are the heat warnings, as I say, kind of sprinkled from east to southwest in the province. But we've also got the severe thunderstorm warning I was showing earlier in the show still in place here. So right around Vaughan, Richmond Hill area, Markham, where we've been seeing some of these cells so highly localized, but because there's the risk of seeing 50, 60, even 70 millimeters of rain coming down in a short period of time, that's kind of the biggest problem with this active weather is the flash flooding risk we have there. And then up into cottage country, really highly localized, but more cells popping up there. That repeat comes into tomorrow afternoon. Let me play it out for you. These, by the way, are tracking northward, so it's not that they're coming into the city or down towards the shoreline. They're tracking northward towards the shores of Georgian Bay or Lake Huron, although they'll be dissipating in the next hour or two here as well. Saturday starts off very nicely with a lot of sunshine into the afternoon. We get into isolated thunderstorms popping up into cottage country by late afternoon, early evening, and then into the overnight. We see that towards the lower Great Lakes, and then a repeat into Sunday afternoon. So there's going to be a few waves of it. It's not going to be everywhere, but again, we'll get into some scattered showers and thunderstorms. Your temperatures getting milder in the overnight as well, and tomorrow we heat back up into those low 30s, but feeling warmer than that, like we're in the mid-30s for tomorrow. Sunday, feeling like the upper 30s, same thing into Monday, and we get into more widespread showers, especially as we go into Tuesday, but the temperature starts to come down, humidity starts coming down by mid next week, Dwight.
Still not complaining. Thank you, Colette.
I'm not either.
I know you're not.
Rejoice.
From the streets of India to Forest Hill, Shas Simpson was a street kid in Chennai before a twist of fate changed his life. He was adopted by a Toronto family and went on to become one of Canada's most renowned chefs. He's now opened his own restaurant with a menu that honors his upbringing. Marivelle Tarouk caught up with Chef Simpson to talk about his remarkable journey.
It's the latest addition to Toronto's fine dining scene. Sash Restaurant and Wine Bar just opened its doors, serving high-end cuisine that includes upscale fish and chips, charcuterie with foie gras, and desserts to die for. But the Summerhill neighborhood where Sash is located is a long way from Chennai, India, where owner and chef Sash Simpson spent his early years as a street kid, abandoned by family.
Runaway street kid, which is very common. So I wasn't the only one. There's like millions of them running around. But for me, it was different because a miracle kind of happened, and which I didn't know it will happen. But being a street kid, runaway, jumping on trains, getting off, jumping on, getting off, living on the streets, begging, stealing, just, you know, and that's what it was for quite a bit of time.
But then, he says, a miracle happened. Just a child cleaning a movie theater in exchange for a place to sleep, he decided to get some air.
So I go outside, and right across from the movie theater there was a bus terminal, and went and sat at this bench, and boom, that's when everything really kind of started. These two Indian ladies with a white lady, they're translating, and all I'm getting is, are you an orphan? Are you a runaway?
They were workers from the local orphanage, and they took young Sash in.
And of course, there's 600 other kids in the orphanage. I was just adding to the mix.
But Sash stood out to one woman in particular, the owner of the orphanage, a Canadian named Sandra Simpson.
They used to say, oh, Mummy's coming from Canada to visit. And she did this like 2-3 times a year. And I was all excited, oh, Canada, okay, I get to go to Canada. So you get this tall, blonde lady, white skin, wearing a skirt. So I was pulling her skirt, saying, Mummy, Canada, Canada. She looked at me, oh, yeah, sure.
At the tender age of 8 or 9, he isn't sure of his birth date, Sash Simpson arrived in Toronto and a life forever changed.
We drove into Forest Hill, this beautiful space, snow. I'm looking at, it was like a snow blizzard happening. It was like driving down and looking at this house. I'm like, oh my God, walked in, all these kids. They were like, my mom had, you know, at this time we had like 32 brothers and sisters that she adopted. She had 4 biological and then 28 were adopted. It was overwhelming seeing all these kids, but they were my brothers, even though I just met them. And of course, we became real brothers and sisters.
And now, well established on the Canadian dining scene, he decided to break out on his own, putting everything he's learned behind his namesake restaurant.
People know me by fine dining chef. and they know me by name, my name Sash. So the restaurant name is Sash, and I'm doing fine dining, white linen, in an area that I grew up in.
And the menu is a reflection of that upbringing, from 5-spice bison tenderloin to Chilean sea bass with madras curry and vegetable pakora.
Because I have Korean sisters, Japanese, Chinese, Vietnamese, Cambodian brothers, Spanish brothers, Indian brothers, Bengali brothers. So it's my menu is global, and I come from a family that's global. So being adopted was somebody took a chance, giving me a second chance.
You can watch Maribel's full feature as well as other great stories from around our city this weekend on Our Toronto. That's Saturday and Sunday at noon, Monday at 11 a.m.
I'm Greg Ross, live at the Global T20 Cricket Championships in Brampton. Coming up, we get a unique perspective on the sport from some of the youngest fans here today.
Thousands of cricket fans are expected to be at the CAA Centre in Brampton this weekend. That's where the Global T20 Canada is happening. That's also where our Greg Ross is tonight. And Greg, you talked to some of the game's younger fans today.
I'm actually talking to some of the players. This gentleman just came over watching us on TV here and talking to us. He's actually part of the game. He's over here talking to us. But yeah, we were able to catch up. There's a lot of kids here to watch this match here today. In fact, Brampton's a bit of a hotbed. We were talking about that earlier in the show for this sport. And there's a lot of kids that play. So I got a lesson from some of the youth of the sport. What can you tell me about cricket? Do you know the rules?
Not that much, because I play at my cousin's house.
So what can you tell me? You play. You got to be able to tell me the rules.
So there's somebody on the grass, and there's somebody who holds the bat and who throws the ball, and they try to hit the ball.
You're coming to watch cricket with your dad here, I take it?
Yes.
Right? So he just wants ice cream. He doesn't care about the camera. He cares about the ice cream. Can you tell me about the rules of cricket?
What?
Just tell me the rules. What do you know about cricket?
No hitting.
No hitting. That's the rule that we have on the pitch, yeah.
No hitting?
And no pissing.
No what?
No pushing. So
No
those are the rules
pushing.
that we have when we
So it's not like hockey where you can push and you can
It
hit.
is a minimum contact sport.
What can you tell me about cricket?
Kick the ball.
You hit the ball,
Yes.
and then what?
How hard do you hit the ball, Susanna?
Well, so Dad's asking, how hard do you hit the ball?
Hard.
Hide.
You're going to be able to just explain the rules to me here.
Okay, so there's a boundary on the outside of the hole.
What's that called?
It's a boundary, right?
Right, but silly me.
Right, and so if the ball hits, touches the ground before it comes past the boundary or hits the boundary, it's a 4, and it goes flying over it without bouncing anywhere, it's a 6.
That's like a home run in baseball.
Basically, yeah.
What do you know about cricket?
Cricket, we do somebody ball and then
Whose ball?
bowler,
The bowler, okay.
then there's a batter.
There's a batter,
Yeah.
and then what happens?
Then if somebody score and they will get a point.
How many points?
6.
Are you a cricket fan?
You have to bat in a certain way. You hold the bat like this and then put it on your feet and then that. And why do they only use a hard ball?
You're asking me? I'm trying to get the rules from you.
It goes flying in the air and then it goes hardly down, and then when you catch it, it hurts.
That's a good lesson for anybody getting into the sport. It hurts when you catch the ball. Now, watching these guys, they catch that ball. They don't wear gloves like they do in baseball, but 102 players, Dwight, taking part in this tournament. 30 of them are Canadians. Actually, 31 of them are Canadians. So there's lots of heroes for those young fans to look up to as they try to grow this sport here in the next couple of weeks, Dwight.
Lots of cricket fans in and around the GTA will be heading there this weekend. Thank you for that, Greg. Different sport now. It's the last day of the Raptors Basketball Academy, and to celebrate, a special visit from a 2019 champion, Norman Buckets Powell. Something he wanted to make sure the kids knew today: basketball is fun, but school is most important.
I wouldn't be where I am today without my education. My mom made it very important for me and my sisters to get a good education. She was very strict with our grades. We couldn't bring home nothing less than a C. So, A's and B's were what it was in my house. And, I always tell kids before anything, they got to get an education. The school comes first, basketball, your sports, extracurricular activities come second. For me, I went to UCLA, I graduated, I got my degree. That was the most important thing, one of the reasons why I stayed in college. For all the kids out there, everybody out there, I'm a school guy first before anything.
We played a game with him. We were passing to each other. We were making other people get open, and we were also letting others have turns with the balls and shooting.
It's such a great time. It was a great experience for the kids. This is his second year, and you can see his confidence level has really grown, and he enjoyed playing with the big boys, and he had a great time. Motivation and the teamwork and the dedication that they've learned here, and just being with other kids their age, and being able to make a team that can, really do something great together. It's just something that we just really value in this.
You could do anything you want to him. I hired you to be an actor, Rick, not a TV cowboy. You're better than that.
Pitt, DiCaprio, Tarantino, Eli Glasner gives us his take on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, coming up next.
Here I am.
I'm Rick Dalton. It's my pleasure, Mr. Schwartz.
Call me Marvin. Put it there. That's your son?
No, it's my stunt double, Cliff Booth.
We watched a Rick Dalton double feature. All the shooting. I love that stuff, you know, the killing.
A lot of killing.
I love the way he says that. I'm Rick Dalton. That's a bit of the newest Quentin Tarantino film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It has a lot of violence and a lot of laughs, but what does Eli think about it? He's here to tell us. First, Eli, because it matters what you think. What's this movie about?
So, 1969, as you saw, Rick Dalton used to be the top of the Hollywood food chain. He was an actor playing a cowboy, had a show all his own, and now he's the guy losing fights. He's the guy doing walk-on parts instead of being the star. But the one usually getting punched isn't Rick, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. It's actually Brad Pitt as his brother-in-law, as his partner, as his butler, gopher, and stuntman. Let's take a look.
Actors are required to do a lot of dangerous stuff. Cliff here is meant to help carry the load.
Is that how you describe your job, Cliff? What, carrying his load? Yeah, it's about right.
So there you go. Cliff's all good. You know, kind of channeling a little early Robert Redford there. But Rick, not so happy with what's happening to his career. Let's take another look.
All right, what's the matter, partner?
It's official, old buddy. I'm a has-been.
August night and the leaves hanging down and the grass on the ground.
Here I am, flat on my ass. And who I got living next door to me?
I'm Sharon Tate. I'm in the movie. You're in this? That's me.
Now, if you know your Hollywood history,
Yes.
that name, and that's Margot Robbie playing her, that is very important. Sharon Tate, a real-life actress, was a rising star. So now we have three trajectories. We got Sharon Star going up, we have Rick Star kind of in the middle, maybe going down, and then Cliff, who's just doing his thing, driving around, helping his boss until he comes across a couple of beguiling, beautiful hippies who take him to a ranch where they're under the sway of a guy named Charlie Manson.
Yes. That's where we know the Tate name. There's an obvious nod to La La Land and Charles Manson here.
So, you know, it's an interesting film in that there's a lot going on and sometimes nothing going on. And sometimes the nothing was my favorite part. Like, if this movie was nothing but Brad Pitt cruising around the strip, arm out the window, cranking the tunes on the radio, like, I would be all there for it. I love the ambiance. The nostalgia is as thick as the LA smog. But this really is Tarantino giving into all of his favorite obsessions. So old movies, old shows, lots of gunfights, and feet. A lot of women's feet in this movie. Don't see the feet of that guy or that guy, but Margot Robbie, all the rest, lots of sometimes plastic. Oh yeah, they're just like, I don't know if he's like joking about it or owning it, but it's right up there.
All right, so big names in this one, of course. You've mentioned them both. How does Brad and Leo do in this?
I like what Leo's doing. I think it's really interesting because he's a good actor playing a bad actor. So when the camera's on, he's commanding, he's got the jaw, he's got the steely-eyed glare, and then the camera turns off, and he's this stuttering sad sack who's drowning in drink and self-pity. Take a look as he's fighting for his buddy, the stuntman, to get a role.
Hey, you could do anything you want to him. Throw him off a building, right? Light him on fire. Hit him with a Lincoln, right? Get creative. Do whatever you want. He's just happy for the opportunity. Rick? Yeah.
I don't dig him. And I don't dig the vibe he brings on a set.
The vibe he's talking about is what people say about that guy, Cliff. They say he murdered his wife and got away with it. So another dark turn for this film. And just to make Cliff even more interesting or disturbing, there's a showdown between him and Bruce Lee. Take a look for yourself.
My hands are registered as lethal weapons. We get into a fight, I accidentally kill you. I go to jail.
Anybody accidentally kills anybody in a fight, they go to jail. It's called manslaughter.
And that's the kind of film this is. Tarantino is distorting reality, taking the legendary martial artist and making him a punchline just to show us how impressive the stuntman supposedly is.
All right, this is Tarantino's 9th film we think?
Yeah, 9th film, longer film, I'd say a somewhat lazier film, and certainly indulgent with a running time of, ladies and gentlemen, 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
3 stars out of 5. An interesting mess, but a mess indeed.
How long did you say this was?
2 hours and 45 minutes.
I don't know if we got
Felt
that.
like 5, though.
Thank you, Eli.
You're welcome.
Happy Friday, buddy. We've got about 30 seconds to end of show, and we know what the weather's going to be this weekend. It will be hot.
It's going to be hot. We've got the heat warnings in place Saturday, Sunday. It's going to extend into Monday as well because that humidity going back up again. Still a few isolated thunderstorms out there. Just want to remind you about that. Otherwise, we will see clearer skies overnight tonight, 20 degrees for our overnight low, and then we're into that heat tomorrow, so 31 with it feeling more like we're in the mid to upper 30s.
And we'll all be in shorts and sandals, so we'll be all right. Have a great weekend, everybody. Mike Wise has it covered tonight.